Well, hello there and welcome to your guitar lesson, which now brings us up to number 23 in your books. Today we're going to consider a little bit about lute music, because it's a great source of music for the classical guitar. And we're going to tackle the full bar, and we're going to have a quick reprise of your Sevillana for those of you who've been practicing it. So in preparation for that, let's get ourselves nicely in tune now. Right. Now, before we get to the Sevillana, I'd just like to take up the topic of daily exercises. In level 1, I tended to stress these quite a lot. And of course, the principle is still the same. Your playing in your practice period will in fact be a lot better if you start out by warming up your fingers in a sensible way. And when I say that, I mean with a few chords probably at first, and then arpeggios, done without a feeling of pressure or anything like that, and then some of your single note type of exercises that we've already done in the past. As far as I've put some new arpeggios for you and some slur exercises in the book, because these sort of things are good to practice as well, to develop good habits and to prepare yourself for playing. You'll find it makes quite a difference. Don't just go straight to the pieces, but warm the hands up naturally and efficiently first if you can. Right, let's do our Sevillana now. A little bit faster than we did last week, because the rasgueados sound a little odd when they're too slow. All right, let's see what we can do. Are you ready? 1, 2, and 3. Right, that's all the flamenco we have time for at the moment, but I will be giving you some recommendations in a program or two farther down the line on what you can do if you're interested in pursuing that further. Now, let's get back to our classical guitar and the subject now of the full bar. Now, what I'm going to do this week is simply to give you a little starter exercise on the full bar. And you'll find that again and again I shall be saying, don't clench too hard, because the great thing is not to build up discomfort in your left hand, but to discover how to do a bar that is so well placed that it isn't, in fact, uncomfortable at all. All right, here's how we go about it. With the first finger, I'd like you to put your finger ready for a complete bar at the first fret. But I don't want you to actually depress the strings at all. I want you to just touch them, rather the way we did with the half bar, just enough to damp the sound of the string. And with your right hand, you can keep strumming like this, and with the left hand now, ease the finger just to the point where you hear a clear sound. When you've got that, and that shouldn't be with a lot of pressure, I want you then to put down these three fingers, the third finger on the C, little finger on the F, and the second finger on the A. That's on the third string there. Do you see that? All right, let's do that again now. Just touch the strings lightly. Imagine that this fret is a big wall coming up and not just a small area, and that you're going to put your finger into the corner formed by that wall and the fingerboard. All right, we start by touching on top of the strings at the right place. We do our very minimal touch, and we ease it down as we play with the thumb, just to the point where we hear the clear sounds. Then we add these other notes here, the C, the F, and the A, and there we have a clear bar. Let's go up a fret and do the same thing. Touch, play it, ease down. Now you've got a clear sound, and you're not making a great pressure with your left hand, at least I hope you aren't. Add the other strings, there you go. Up one more fret, find the place, damp the strings, ease down just till you've got the clear sound, and then make the chord. All right, we'll be doing a little exercise next week where we move that chord around, so practice it as much as you can. It's a very useful exercise, this, for the bar, because what you learn essentially is to find the right place for it rather than, as I said before, to try and get it clear by just clenching the hand a lot, which would give you discomfort. Now you're going to have to adjust a little bit for your length this way, how far you project over the fingerboard. And the purpose of this is that you don't want to encounter the crinkles of the fingers on the strings if possible. You want to adjust sideways so that the string is in fact against the fleshy part of the finger. And this is something that depends a little bit on the individual hand, so you'll have to adjust for yourself. The main guide is don't go too far like that so that you have a great area projecting over, and don't be short of it like that. But somewhere in this area here, you're going to find it's right for your hand, and you can get a clear bar with the minimum amount of pressure. Now, let's get back to the new note situation in the fifth position, and let's learn the D, E, and F on the fifth string, which we find first finger on the fifth fret. That's the D on the fifth string. Play it with me now. And the seventh fret gets you the E, and then at the eighth fret, the F. And playing these in the fifth position, we use 1, 3, and 4. One other thing I'd like to come back on a little bit. Let's go up again to the fourth string now. Let's play the G on the fourth string, which you had before, and you learned the A. Now, I want you to learn one more note here with the little finger up above the A, the B flat. You remember we said that there isn't a B in the fifth position. There isn't a B natural, but there is, in fact, a B flat here. Right. Let's get now to exercise number 19 in your books, and let's try this out with a nice slow run. The theme is from a book by Gaspar Sanz, who was a famous guitarist in the 17th century and published a book of Spanish dances. This one is called the Marisapalos. Right, exercise 19, you'll get 1, 2, 3, 1, and when you play it, do a little vibrato and see if you can get a nice, rich sound to it. Sounds good that way. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Up to the 4th string. And there's that B flat. It's in the key signature, so all B's are flat. 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2. Here's the B flat. 1, over to the 5th string. 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1. All right, there's a few things to think about there. Let's do it again with some accompaniment. And remember always that it is permissible to look ahead to next week's exercise and get just a little practice. Then you'll have more fun with it when we do it together. All right, once more on this one. I'll give you an accompaniment. I have to tune down here a little bit. All right, 1, 2, 3, 1 again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 1. Make it sound as rich as you can. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Well tried. All right, now, to be absolutely sure of those notes, I'm going to cover the same ones again next week with a rather enjoyable exercise, I think. So if you feel like looking ahead to that and consolidating these notes, I think you'll find it's quite fun. Now, to our topic today of the lute. And let's first of all look at some lutes as painted by great painters in history. Notice that this little 15th century angel musician is playing, in fact, with a form of pick, a quill, actually. The lute also shows its Moorish origin with 2 sound holes like the modern oud. As we move on in time, the fingers are used, fingers and thumb, more practical for chording, of course. This lutenist of Caravaggio is tuning, something that took rather a lot of time in those days, particularly as the strings proliferated, as in this theorbo of the Baroque period. And now from historic lutes to an actual one here, this one made by David Rubio in England. You'll notice the curly maple used on the back, which is fairly typical of the lute, although other fruit woods were used. And on the front, like a guitar, a fine-grained spruce. Now, the difference in sound is interesting. It's still, of course, your basic plucked string sound, but being higher in pitch, it has a little sharpness to it in a sense. And a little brighter character in general, although it can be very sweet as well, too. That little phrase, incidentally, was from Kemp's Jig, which is quite a famous piece from the Elizabethan period and commemorates Will Kemp, who was a comedian in Shakespeare's company. In fact, he was the first Dogberry in Much Ado About Nothing. And he's also celebrated for a great dance that he did, a long-distance dance, from London to Norwich, which took him 9 days, doing Moorish dances, or Morris dances, as they call them. And it must be, I suppose, one of the first examples of a major publicity stunt. Anyway, this little jig is associated with Will Kemp, and we're going to study it ourselves to get an example of a lute piece on the guitar. All right, you've heard the pitch of the lute. And keep that in your mind while I hastily drop this lute, and drop isn't perhaps quite the word, gently lay it down, I should say, and pick up a guitar. And with that in your ear, you'll hear the comparable sound of playing the same piece on the guitar. Now, obviously, this classical guitar sounds more mellow, but nevertheless, with good music, and this is good music, I think, you'll find that it bears translating from the one instrument to the other quite well. And there is, in fact, a very rich source of music from this period because of the high quality of composers who composed for the lute. Now, we're going to go into detail in this piece. We're going to break it down into little 4-bar segments and try and play it ourselves. So let's put up the music, and let's have a look now at Kemp's jig. All right, the first thing we encounter is a little half-bar D chord. And I think you've heard this before, not too difficult. All we do is lay the first finger down behind the second fret, and that covers the A and the F sharp. Second finger gets us the D. Let's play the chord. Do it now with me. And that's our start. All right, now just holding that chord on, you'll notice the next note is just a G on the top string. And then we have F sharp and D again, and we didn't in fact need to move the left hand from that chord. Having planted firmly for that half bar, we can do, and we don't need to move until the next step, which is to put the third finger over onto that fifth string for the C sharp and play it with an open string. All right, let's try that first measure together, shall we? Find the half bar. Got it? All right, slow 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Play the chord, 2 and 3, and then 4 gets us over onto the third finger. All right, one more time for good measure, because the first measure and the last measure of the piece can be considered the most important. Find the chord. Remember the dotted quarter note count, 1, 2, and 3, all right? Here we go. 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. All right, not too difficult. Now, plant the first finger down on the B and the second finger on the D on the second string. There, you got it. Now, notice again a dotted quarter note, so we're going to count without moving the left hand, 1, 2, and 3. I said without moving the left hand because the note in between is an open string, and we're going to come immediately back to the same chord. So let's plant now on 1 and 2, and let's see if we can play this measure. Ready? Go. 1, 2, and 3, 4. All right, simple so far. Let's go on, put the second finger down on the G and play it with the second string open. That's it. Now we come to our first full bar, what all that practice was for. Just lay the finger down, just as we did in the exercise, comfortably in there at the second fret, and play the F sharp on the bottom string and the A on the third string, both covered by that first finger. If it buzzes, get a little closer to the fret. You might have been a little too far back in the fret. And remember our old principle that it's the good position and not the tightness of a bar that makes it clear. All right, the next thing that comes up is 2 open strings, very easy, and then a C sharp, and drop the second finger down onto the D. First finger gets the A, and another D. All right, let me play that first phrase for you now in some sort of time so you get an idea of this little 4-bar segment. You ready? Here it goes. All right, now having done that, what we're in fact going to do is ornament it by playing the same thing with just a little more sort of florid ornamentation in the melody, like this. That's what it sounds like. All right, let's get to that and do it now, bit by bit ourselves. All right, find the D and F sharp, and watch out for the right hand fingering here. It's designed to help you do this smoothly. All right, are you ready? Let's read it together in time now. 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. Third finger over to the C sharp with the open string. 4. 1 and 2 and first and second fingers on exactly as before. Now first finger to the C sharp, open A, and over with the second finger to the G with an open string. Lay down the finger for the bar. See how useful it is when you need it. F sharp and A. 2 open strings. And 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's try that again with a little more continuity if we can. Same place. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this next bit, let me demonstrate it for you because it's rather fun. I think you get a little sharp change of key in here. Again, the same principle, a little 4-bar bit of melody and then an ornamented version so that you don't get bored when you hear it again. Here's how the next bit sounds. Here's the straight melody. And then, to ornament it, we continue. And so on. We'll do it together in a minute. Right, let's get back to that next section then. Are you ready? Find the F sharp and the open D, and let's do it very slowly, but in time if we can. 2, 3, 4. 1, and little finger on the A. 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2. Formal C chord, really, isn't it? 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and slide the second finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 4. Well, next week we'll run through that again, so see what you can do in the intervening time. Now, I said earlier on that I would play a lute piece for you, so let me again rapidly change instruments. And the one I've chosen is also about, curiously, a Shakespearean clown. This time, William Tarleton, who was celebrated member of Shakespeare's company. And this piece was composed as a memorial to him by John Dowland, who was one of the most famous lutenists and composers of the Elizabethan period. The title of this piece, Tarleton's Resurrection.